behind everything I do, I really am completely inadequate.
I'm helping the culture. These guys are part of us as well. You know, these guys are our cousin. I'm helping the culture. I'm pushing the culture forward in another way.
Hey, black child, be what you can be, learn what you must learn, do what you can do, and tomorrow.
What do you do after you read? What do you do after you know all, right? And you can say that you're truly conscious. How are you putting what you know into action?
My mic was muted. Hey, welcome back to the New Black History Makers show. It's Friday, 3:30. We are here every Friday at 3:30 at the Good News Network. Here, not by myself, with Daisia Iman. Yeah, definitely not a new face. But we are talking about parenting. I forgot what I made the title of this episode, but talking about parenting, not necessarily parenting, but I guess being parented. Yeah, so getting into that, neither of us are parents, but we have been parented. So we're getting into that. But first of all, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I am good. Good.
I miss you.
What'd you say?
I miss you so
I
much.
miss you too. Yeah, a lot, definitely. So yeah, if you watch the show, you know that aside from the "How are you" question, I go and ask basically like a non-generic question that facilitates a deeper response. I guess I should have thought about it. I have a list of them. The one that everyone really likes, it's a crowd favorite, is "How could you have shown yourself more grace this week?"
Um, Probably just the words that go through my head. You know,
Mm.
things happen. Balls.
Oh wait, did we lose you? Can you hear me?
And you.
No.
Hello.
Okay, I can hear you, but can't see. Okay, well, I can hear you. Let me see if I
Cool.
can. Maybe you can bring it back. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, you're okay. There you go.
Hello again. But yeah,
Yeah.
just the narrative, just like the little words, just be a little nicer. Like it's all of life is this, and by the time
Mhm.
you're like super nice to yourself when you get here, the up is way easier. So it's just
Right.
shut up and do it. Just ride
Yeah.
the boat.
Ride the
Yeah.
boat, ride the wave, ride
Mhm.
all the streams, everything.
Yeah.
I love it. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about who Daisia Iman is. How can people support you? All of that.
Um, at the moment, I'm really just chilling. I'm at like a cool place of kind of reblooming. I don't have much to market, anything to plug, but what I am super proud of is myself and where I'm just going to get at and what I plan on doing. So if you want to support me, just pray for the kids. Like I don't need much. I don't want anything at all. Just
Yes,
and
that's
who
good.
I am is a black queer artist who genuinely cares about like uplifting people and making a way for themselves. And my goal is to like do that within the music industry. But as of right now, I'm just chilling.
Just chilling. Chilling is good though. I think we need more spaces or seasons to chill in our lives. I think a lot of times it's like, well, what are you going to do in 10 years or what are you going to do in 5 years or who do you want to be or how can you like reach your goals? But then it's like, well, when do I take time to just like enjoy myself and be me?
Oh yeah, I'm well aware that my like timeline is a little different. Like a lot of us are working our butts off to retire, and I'm
Mhm.
like, I feel like I'm like retired right now. But as soon as that coin flips, I don't think I'll stop working for a long time. But as long as it's in what I want it to do, it will never be work. You know.
Right. Yeah. That's good. So, excuse me.
No, I'm like,
I was clear my I know I'm like I have like weird stuff going on in my throat. Um, yeah, I'm not even gonna say what I was gonna say. But we today we are talking about being parented, and there was a viral video that went. We'll touch on the video, but then also kind of just touch on our own personal experiences as well. But the video, I mean, in a nutshell, it was I would assume a young black girl. She's definitely young. I don't know what age or any of that, but she basically was just coming for like this. I idea or the actions of parents kind of making children feel like they're a burden or not really being a safe space for their children. And I think stuff that we've all experienced, which you and I kind of talked about a little bit offline, like it was kind of like, oh, like everybody is like championing this, and as if like this was not something that was like known across the board, or if this was like new information. Um, so I wanted to talk about it because I feel like it's a new thing, not a new thing. I think it's a nuance. But I think we do need to start having conversations about how we were parented and how that has created whether the way that we're in relationships, whether we're in relationship with ourselves, the way that we work, like, you know, your parents, whether they were there or not, really create this environment for you and how you like operate with your mind throughout the rest of your life. So what did you think about the video?
I thought it was good. It was a lot to grasp, but it wasn't wrong. I don't think she was wrong at all. I mean, an opinion's an opinion. So thank you for sharing your thought. You know what I'm saying? There was relatable moments, a lot of them, but then there was also like you lost me there moments. I think she kind of contradicted herself a little bit in the message also, which is fine. But you know, it just happens. I think the thing that stood out to me the most was her being able to say, my mother is understanding. She understands where I'm coming from, but other people don't. And that was a huge thing for me. My mom definitely gives like radical, it gives activists, but it's also in corporate. It's also very aligned and very presentable. You know what I'm saying? But when she would tell me certain things, like if I would have issues at school, it'd be like, well, slap them back. You know what I'm saying? Or if you don't like something, say something. But I think the difference with me and my brain, especially because I'm just who I am, it became like I became very boisterous. I got told I was outspoken very quickly, like very quickly. Like they'd be like, Daisia does not stop talking, but it's because Daisia's uncomfortable and does not like this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I became the person who challenged everything somebody said to the point where it was hard to speak with me. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't because I was too smart. It's because I misunderstood what my mom said. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so sometimes that happens too. And so it's like I've been called disrespectful my whole life. My whole life. But if you know me, because you know me, that's the last thing I am. You know what I'm saying? That's the last thing I am. But what I am going to do is shake the table. And if you don't let me shake it, I'm burning it down. And that's just up to you and how this conversation is going to go.
Right.
But even with me burning it down, or sometimes I call myself a firework. And the fire, you know, like a firework is beautiful, right? It's a beautiful presentation. But that pop is a pop. So it's loud for this, it's loud for the soft ones. And if you're too close, a spark will hit you. And you're gonna feel a little sting, but the presentation was beautiful. You know what I'm saying? And I've been kind of raised, right? And I've been raised and wrapped up to be like that. It's gonna be a little bit of an explosion first, but by the time we all settle into it, I'm coming from a beautiful place. I'm coming from a great place. So that's where I was able to hang on to it. Is like, yes, I'm honest. Yes, I stand up for myself. Yes, my mother taught me this and she understands where I'm coming from. But yes, sometimes I do have to configure my speech for the other world. You know what I mean? Sometimes I do meet my tribe. You and I can have all types of conversations and we'll get into it however we want to.
Yeah.
Some people might even hear us and be like, dang, like, do they like each other?
Toxic.
You know what I'm saying? And the last thing we're having is beef. That's the last thing we're having. But the presentation, my presentation can be a little muddy. And that's what I related to in that video. The first thing I related to.
Yeah, I think same where I don't necessarily know that my parents were outspoken people. So I saw it. They didn't necessarily teach me to be it, but I saw my dad advocate for people. I saw my mother speak up for herself and not let things just like slip under the radar. So then when I was like, you know, growing up, I think just naturally having them, you know, in me or being my parents' child, I naturally just spoke out against things. Or if I felt something, it was, oh, I said it. Oftentimes, you know, in my early years, it was to them. You know, they had to deal with that first. Like, you're 4 talking about whatever I was talking about. But it was like, well, you were a lot, you know, to deal with. So then when it comes to dealing, like being in school and stuff, it was just like, I don't know what it is. I guess everybody doesn't have it because it's just something in me. Like if there's something going on and there's a wrong that's being done, the ramification of it, I'm not thinking about. But I do feel like I need to say something, and it will bother me. And it's been like that since I was younger. So I'll speak to the thing and just take care of the ramifications after. Like, if it's a punishment that it is what it is. But like, I have a thought that I want to get out, and it may bother you, but you know, it is what it is. And growing up now in the positions that I'm in now, you know, having a show, doing New Black History Makers, like those things make sense, right? So it's something where I don't think my parents necessarily tried to water it down. I know they tried to like figure it out, but as I got older, I then found my place in it. I then found where to place it or where I can place myself without having to like not say things. And that even took time, you know, for people to be like, oh, you're outspoken and you say things that a lot of people don't want to say and they make us uncomfortable. Looking like, you know, am I the firecracker on May 15th or am I the one on, you know, July 4th? Like, y'all like the ones on July 4th, but then in November, y'all tripping. But it's the same thing, you know, it's the same aesthetic. But that's what I think, where it's, you know, been with me. It's like people will want you in certain capacities or in certain spaces, but it's like I'm the same thing. So if you appreciate the firework on 4th of July, you should appreciate me in November or in December. And that's been like a, you know, a tricky thing. But then also it goes back to with my parents, them not necessarily being completely accepting of that, and then being able to go into the world and being like, y'all are not accepting of it, but my parents got over it, so y'all gonna have to get over it too.
Yeah. And that's, I think, the weird way about how it can trickle into relationships. Because the unfortunate thing about me too is, though I am that firework and though I don't mind being that spark, I was raised to like people, to respect people. So when people don't like me, and it's not that they don't like me, but now we've had an issue, or maybe I've, you know, once I get that, oh, well, you're kind of rude, or, you know, you're being disrespectful. I parts of me, especially like older me, younger me, would curl in. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, that wasn't my objective, dude. And I'm not that kind of person. So that's the new place I'm at, especially with trying to be not even like getting more into the industry or even becoming an entrepreneur, all of that. Like, there's just going to be people who don't get me. Who don't get it. You know what I'm saying? And it's no ill malice. You just have to move over.
You
know? And I can't say sorry or try to bring them along. It's just like, we're just like, everything doesn't have to go together. So even her, the young lady, going to the point of like, I don't know, she was just saying like, some people get it and some people don't. It's like, it's just always going to be like that, you know?
Yeah. And it's interesting because last week I had Brianna Weaver on. She's like in the field of construction here in LA, but a Black woman. And she kind of mentioned that too. Like, some people are going to get you and some people are not, you know, especially being Black and going through stuff. And her being a Black woman, she was just like, I work in a field with a whole bunch of white men. And she was like, if I walk around talking about you don't understand me, she was just like, my experience is going to be completely negative. She was like, I know that, I've accepted that, you know, but like, it is what it is. You got to move out the way, let me do my job, or it's just going to be a problem. And I think a lot of times those of us that live in a more peaceful place, that's the, you know, route that we've taken. And then people think like, oh, well, it's a rude approach or that it's a little bit of a harsh approach, but it's like, you kind of have to be harsh to navigate this world and be at peace. Like, you kind of have to meet people with a very firm boundary, so that you can keep yourself at peace. Like, I'm like, when I see people that are just happy all the time, I'm like, what's going on? Like, I mean, like, you're
now wait. So what does that mean? What does that mean to you?
One thing I think happiness is temperamental. Meaning it can come and go. You definitely can experience sadness. And I think when you're experiencing sadness, that's the absence of being happy, right? I would definitely put peace over happiness.
Yes.
So I'm like, you can be at peace, but we ain't smiling all the time.
Yeah, like, I agree. I always say content is like my normal state. You know what I'm saying? Or what is that word I posted the other day? Eloquinate. It was on. Remember?
I don't remember it, but I did see it.
That's a good place too. But yeah, it's being at a balanced level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's good. And then you had mentioned something else about the video. I think that was a good point too, her mentioning about her mom, but then I was also like, where did your experience with everything else that you said after come from?
That's why I said she kind of contradicted herself.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was kind of like that. I know. Well, did you feel like your parents or your mom understood you when you were growing up? Was that something where you were like, okay, I feel like when I'm here, I'm understood, but maybe
Mhm.
not in the world? Like, how was that experience?
You know, it was interesting because when I was listening to the video, I kind of also equated it to grandparents. My grandparents
Mhm.
did a really unfortunate mark on my mental that they just don't know about till if my papa watches this. Unfortunately, my grandmother has passed away,
Mhm.
but they, their era already gave impatient. Does that make sense? Their
Yeah.
era already gave like, do what I say now or I'm gonna beat you up. You know what I mean? And my mom was not like that. Don't get me wrong, I got whoopings, but my mom, she just it's a smoother type of bomb. Like we work towards it. It's not the first interaction. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that would always be really jarring for me, quote unquote, especially the type of name. I got called a lot of names as I was younger. Like my grandma would whisper in my ear, like, "You little boy," and I'm like, "Yes, I look how I look and I dress how I dress," but like, and even my shirt says this, but it's like it's a brand. Like I don't. It's like a clothing brand, but I don't brand myself as a man. You know what I'm saying? Like I've never really figured that out. It's just like these are just clothes that I like to wear a little more because they're tighter on my body to how I
Yeah.
like them. You know what I mean? Like little things like that. So it'd be the words adults will tell you can I'm talking about have stayed with me, and I am now 28 years old. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Even the good ones. I remember my aunt, my favorite aunt in the world. She's like, Deja, you love to eat fruits and vegetables. That's so good for you. And I'd be like, show you right. You know what I'm saying? Because it's because she sees me. She sees that I'm trying to take care of my body. Like I loved that as a kid. Words of affirmation was my thing, and no one around me did it. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm having that's the thing too. Basically, what a lot of kids are saying is you're not speaking my love language. You can yell, you can buy me these presents, you can do what you got to do, but do you understand how you have to approach me?
Right.
Does that make sense? My mother didn't know how to approach me. She didn't talk to me a lot.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So when there would be moments like my mom, like I think one of the words I remember my mom saying the most is "You're my most expensive child," and I'm
Mm.
like, is that a compliment? Because I like money. I like spending money. But
Right.
you know what I'm saying? But so I would have to almost make jokes about the things she would say to me so they didn't beat me up. You know what I'm saying? When my aunts and uncles would be like, "You're really annoying," I'd be like, "No, I'm really passionate, really
Yeah.
loud, and really sensitive. But
Yeah.
the last thing I am is annoying." You know,
Yeah.
and it took me growing up to have to kind of figure those things out. But I got lucky enough to I think be as strong as they were. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
unfortunately, they're projecting onto me. And I didn't realize that till I got a little older. But all these adults ever do is project. That's all
Mm.
they're doing.
Yeah.
Like they can't stand certain things that are going on in their lives, or they just can't simply stand the fact that they have to pay one more bill. So
Right.
your bow tie and your hair is just getting on their nerves. You know what I'm saying?
And it's something that they can speak to in the moment, right? That they feel like they can change, or they can make someone feel like belittled in that moment. But it's interesting too, because I was having a thought earlier, like, I mean, people, know my church background and all of that, and that situation with or not situation, but how I was raised within my family. And then the fact that I'm still in the church, but not that it looks completely different, right? But I've had to dismantle a lot of things so that I could like properly exist in my faith, in the same
Yeah,
faith that they raised me in. And
yeah.
I was having a thought earlier, and I was like, I think I'm a little triggered by the way that my grandparents speak about our faith,
Hmm.
because they pushed it to me in a way that was very like fear based. They pushed it in a way that was very like, if you don't do this, then you go to hell. If you don't do this, then whatever. And it's like, as someone who has decided, like, okay, as a grown adult, I am opting into this religion rather than just sitting here because my grandparents and parents, introduced me to it. I'm like, it's a little different when you read. I mean, and even if you're not religious, right, and you just read what the Bible says, like,
Hmm.
there's a lot more freedom in it than what I feel like they gave the religion credit for. And
Yeah.
I realized like it triggers me to hear them talking to other people about coming to God and doing whatever. And it's like these are the people that, essentially introduced God to me, but it's just it's a thing. And I think, like you said, my parents, I mean, I will say that there was this respectability thing, like,
Mhm.
okay, which I still carry today.
Mhm.
And, I mentioned, like, okay, how have they kind of created the boundaries in your head of how you act as an adult? But I still carry this very conservative way of operating, this conservative way of speaking. Like, if I'm talking to you offline, that's a very different conversation than what I'm
Mhm.
having on here.
Yes.
But yeah, like the respectability thing is there, and it's just something where it's like there's just a lot to dismantle. It's a lot, and I'm realizing like I need to, like, it literally was a thought today. Like, I need to check that. I'm not upset that it triggers me because I feel like there needs to be correction there, but
Mhm.
they're so old in age that
Mhm.
it's like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna really change?
Yeah. And it's so interesting you say that too, because I just got this flashback. When I had gone to college, I basically kind of everybody in my family gave me some type of talk, which was basically like, don't embarrass your mom. You know what I'm saying? Like in layman's terms. And for me, you definitely got this slight like, I'm proud of you, like do your thing, but it was very much so like, do not come out here in New York City, Manhattan,
Boundaries in
and
your head.
show your black ass. You know what I'm saying? But for me, unfortunately, because I was already, I was, I'm probably the S word is probably the wrong word, not submissive, because that's a terrible word, but I was docile, a little timid. I would just moved from Arizona all the way to Manhattan by myself. So in my head, all I could think about now was like, I just accidentally shrunk in because I was like, let me not be too loud. Let me not be too big. Let me not do too much. You know what I'm saying? And it showed through my whole college experience because like I even became like a yes ma'am, yes sir type of person. I've been like that to people I respect, but even teachers I didn't like. I was just like, whatever, just leave me alone. You know what I'm saying? Because I know how I can get if you fire me up. And I already had my like you just have your issues already with growing up and being called like what's it called? Having a big temper and things like that. So like when they were telling me those things, I was like, okay. So I almost have to shut myself up so I don't embarrass my family, which did a terrible toll on me, like terrible.
Right. And being so comparing that to what my experience or comparing it, growing up being the preacher's grandkid or being the child of ministers, right? And the anxiety that can produce because we were taught, I mean, I grew up in an era where it was like we dressed a certain way. They didn't wear, I still don't wear pants to church. The women didn't wear pants, and it wasn't like a cultish thing. It was more like they were, stylish or whatever, but
Mhm.
they didn't wear pants. So that was something that we just adopted. And all of the ways that, and I think it happens in society outside of the church too, but it's a lot of pressure on the girls to be X, Y, and Z. And that produces anxiety because it's
Mhm.
like, I have certain anxieties that I've had to tell myself, like, nobody but the people in the church care about this. But they're anxieties that I carry outside in the real world. And I'm like, oh, somebody's going to say something to me about this, or somebody's going to say something to me about that because I'm not. And I'm like, nobody cares like
Mhm.
about those things, but it's certain just anxieties that I carry. And it's like that stems from being raised in the type of house that I was raised in. And it's like, I think it should be pushed in a way where it's like, there's a time and a place, right? There's a time and a place to be this or to worry about the thoughts of others. But then when you're not there, it's okay to experience things that are different from, this said religion or this said way of life. And we just didn't have those conversations. We didn't have conversations about life outside of the church. And that, I think, when you talk about like church kids, that's the struggle. Like, go out there and be strung out, and it's like, because you didn't know any type of freedom. I mean, you had no freedom, right? So
Yeah,
once you got it, you're just like, oh, let me go. But wow, that's why preachers kids are the worst, because once you get out there, it's like, oh, we about to experience everything. Like,
yeah, at
give it all
work.
to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's like, if we had those conversations, about, well, this is what it's like here, right? Like, this
Mhm.
is what's allowed here in this space, but it's just not allowed over here. I think it would be a better transition, but that's a that's like a intense conversation.
We got time. Yeah,
But
no,
or go ahead. We have like 2 minutes.
no,
If
yeah,
we're
no, you're totally fine. I was just definitely agreeing with you. My mother still works in the church, is definitely a church advocate. I liked the music. That was just the best I could do. I liked the music. I definitely support my mom. But even like having like moments with like the pastor and stuff and hearing what he would say about queer people, I would just be like, see, this is what I'm saying. And it just goes back. That's why when I listened to the whole video, I like took it all as in like all the adults in my life. You know what I'm saying? And really not just parents.
Yeah.
So, like to sometimes hear like adults say with their chest, like lesbianism. I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like even that word is so weird to me. I'm just like, what? An ism? I'm an ism. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a weird way to think about somebody because you're not a heterosexualism. You're just not. You're not. So like I was way ahead of that when I was younger. I'm just like, now these people just making up hateful words. You know what I'm saying? And so you have to I try and like again having to try my best to be like every black man is not going to talk to me like that. You know what I'm saying? That's where it got weird for me too. Just again, hearing the things people say and how they formulate the person you are now. Kind of going back to what that young lady was saying, like you're a burden, you're weird because you're gay, all types of stuff. It's just like, what are we talking about?
So what are we talking
But
about?
that's my point. Because again, with mental health, with therapy, the core, remember, like a lot of the stuff I've been talking about lately, Jasmine, is the why. So a lot of that, even with them talking to us, is them projecting. I believe children are parents' punching bags, even as much as they love you. Even as much as they love you. We are.
No, that's good. I mean, that if anybody says that their children weren't their punching bags, maybe it wasn't consistently, but I'm like, you have to check yourself.
At one point,
at some point, you came home and unfairly treated your child.
Bro, I'm talking about seeing great grandparents just berate off of a barrette on the floor, and I'm like, it's bigger than this, bro. It's not me. It can't be me.
Right. My room. So, but we're gonna go on a break. We'll be right back. Still talking about being parented, parenting, you know, growing up, and how it's affected us. But yeah, stay tuned.
Easy.
Hey, Jackie, what?
I'm back. Daisia? Oh, wait, you're muted too.
My fault.
No, you're good. Yes. Welcome back. This is the New Black History Maker Show. We are live on the Good News Network. I was about to say it's 3:30. It's not 3:30, but we are on 3:30 p.m. And if you are listening on the app during the week, please come back and tap in with us. Follow us on New Black History Makers on Instagram at New Black History Makers. You can also shop merch. I always forget to mention that, but go get you some merch. We're in stores and then also online, newblackhistorymakers.com. But I have Daisia Iman here, and we are talking about parenting. We talked a little bit about anxiety, a little bit about therapy, grandparents. I think that's
the source. They're the source. They're the source of our parents. Like if you're lucky enough to have all three generations and have mental intelligence, you see the issues.
Yeah.
And you also see the blessings. Like, don't get me wrong. I was lucky enough to be raised off of two sets of grandparents, and I'm talking about a complete 180. They are very different. But I love being able to see one of my sets of grandparents who have been together for almost 55 years now. And I'm talking about Papa was so nice to that lady. And I literally asked Granny, if Papa passed away, what would you do? And she will not fathom the thought. And I enjoy that dramaticness about them because their love is engulfed in each other. You can tell that you can tell that they put a good amount of massaging into my mom too. And those are the moments that I got too. But I think too, especially again, I always give people the benefit of the doubt because of their era. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like I even asked my mom when I was younger, Mom, why is your name Christy? And she's like, because back then having too black of a name wouldn't do you well on your resume. And I'd be like, corny, stupid. You know what I mean? Could it be me? You know? So it's like even being able to see that like my granny is very different with my mom, almost to the point where I don't know, but it's like it gives like, oh, you've been put in this position. You know what I'm saying? You've been kind of made to be like this. And my mom did not do that for me. I had free reign. My mom was very much so like, figure it out. And I stuck with the arts, and she was just like, if you want that, you want that. And even as I'm like reconfiguring some things out, she's like, if you want that, you want that. Just keep moving forward. And that's where I got lucky with those words and how she talked to me. She was very encouraging. I'm like, if you do not like it, say something. You know what I mean? And even as a young adult, I've had a hard time doing that. But when it comes to my work, I'm very much like, oh, I'm not going. I'm not doing that. And it's never in a cocky place. It's never bombastic. It's never because I think I'm better than it. I just know what I'm capable of, what I'm gonna do, and what I like to do. Yeah. You know?
And I think that's the difference also with our generation. I was in a conversation with some Black people, of course, last week, and we were talking about the difference or just the rate of our generation staying at jobs. I think it's almost less than a year at this point, the average. And the lady that I was talking to, she was saying that her aunt or her mother or whatever, or maybe both of them, they were like, they went to jobs that they didn't like for 40 years. And I'm like, I can't even be in a space for 4 days that I don't
like. Let me tell you.
I'm like, what?
What? I was on the phone with my mother the other day, and she said, no, back in my day, if somebody told you to jump for $1, you say how high and how much. I wanted to chuck my phone across the parking lot. I never thought my mom, especially because the way I view my mom, I would have never thought she'd say that to me. I was like, you do what? Baby, if somebody asked me to jump, I'd be like, where's the trampoline? Because I'm not a like, and I'm not Michael Jordan. So where am I?
Right. Like, what purpose is going to serve you? Before we continue, I forgot that there were comments. I was supposed to get them before. Shout out to Felix Reyes Jr., I believe. Sometimes we got to realize, let me figure out how to read. Realize that our parents were just random people trying to figure it out themselves, and pray that they can be humble enough to realize that it wasn't always the best for their kids, but it was all they knew. And then he said, and hopefully they can apologize and heal some of those relationships and move forward.
And that's the part, though. I got, like, again, talking about parents, I'm very lucky with my mom. I'm very lucky because you know my situation, like even with my dad, for her to be able to like hold her own and be like, I messed up. I am sorry. beat me up with your words for the next few years. And I got to. Took her to therapy, and I got to go back to back with her with my words. And it never once was I called disrespectful, because they knew where my hurt was coming from. You know what I'm saying? But that's where, again, still a lot of parents still become projectors because they're not acceptors. To me.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's hearing that. So yes, I think that, like, okay, let me go back. When I was working in schools, I remember us having a professional development and them asking us, like, the first question was, do you think there are parents out here, or do you think you have some students whose parents don't love them? And some people were like, oh yeah, for sure. And the facilitator goes, after, people are going back and forth and saying whatever, she goes, you're probably not going to find a parent that says that they don't love their child. Do they love them the way that you feel they should love them? Maybe not, but they love their child in whatever weird way, right? And that made me think, like, well, when you're trying to tell somebody about the way that they hurt you, but they felt like they loved you, right? Or they gave you whatever it is that they could give you, it's hard to hear.
Yeah.
And then if you're not sitting in therapy, or if you're still operating from this place of, I'm the parent, you're the child, I'm the grandparent, you're the grandchild, you don't, and that's what the girl said, you don't value what I'm saying, basically. You're not taking my feelings for face value, or you're just saying that I should mask the way that I felt because of the sake of the hierarchy in the relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's often a tough thing when you're trying to mention to your parents, like, no one is saying that you were a bad parent, but I did have to go to therapy, or I feel like I'm hurting in this area because of the things that you did here, here, and here. And it's like, it's no shade to you, but I'm just telling you that I had to get healing from that.
Mm-hmm. It goes back to love languages. Again, yes, you love me. Cool. Right. But you're loving me in the only way you know how to do that. Even my stepdad, drip down, baby, had all the shoes, had all the clothes. Little did everybody know, Daisia just wanted a hug. Daisia wanted to Daisia wanted to be sat down and be like, hey, how does it feel to be the oldest? Because baby, I like to, you know what I'm saying? Little things like that. Especially being the oldest, no one really talked, because I saw everything. I saw the divorce fall out before they saw the divorce fall out. You know what I mean? So to be coddled by sneakers instead of conversation broke my heart. And I'm talking about at a young age, at a very young age. Like, I just knew, okay, my dad can only process Benjamin Franklin's. And as much as I love money today, back then I just wanted a hug.
Right.
And that's like the scariest thing to hear. You know what I mean? But I had to get over that. And now I hope every child learns to meet their parents where they're at, because that's when you feel the love. By the time you keep trying to fish for something that they cannot produce, that's when we keep breaking our own hearts. I know where my mother's at, and she's at a great place. Don't get me wrong. She's at a great place. I love my mom with all my heart, but I know where we're at. You know what I mean? And if our pond gets bigger, if we grow together, totally fine. But I don't ask for much more than she can produce anymore.
Right. And that's interesting too. I was having a conversation about my dad, and me knowing that my dad is not an emotional person, right? He is very much so a manly man. And you talk about like gender roles and stuff, he fits into that. He believes in them. That's just how he is. So when it comes to emotions and stuff, I'm aware of the fact that that's just not somebody that I'm going to. Mm-hmm. Or if we do get into some type of conversation, I know that I have to really operate into this very logical way of explaining to him, right? Or this logical way of understanding what he's even saying. Mm-hmm. And I had not a conversation with my brother, but there was something that happened, and I think I was maybe talking to my mom, and I've mentioned it to other people, like, us having the dad that we had, we can't complain too much about too many things. And that's the privilege in it, right? And having this dad that still is there for us, even in our adulthood, and was there for us, 100% of the days of us growing up. I'm like, you kind of just have to take it with a grain of salt, and also realize that what you're taking is not bad, but we're not going to sit here and make it like put him on the list of, oh, dads are trash and you're trash because of this. But it's like what you said, I'm to make it an easier relationship, right? So that I'm not constantly feeling like I'm in lack. I know where I can go to get that emotional support, right? It may not even be from either of my parents at this point. And I think that's something too, I want to touch on that. So, okay, I'm going to hold that thought, the going to other people. Okay. But I've had to realize that, and I've been more at peace with it because and then also finding what can I talk to my dad about?
Mhm.
What are the things that I can, share with him, or what are the things where we can, exist in conversation together with? That has been just a better transition for me, just a better situation.
Yeah. I think we had more comments. I think I interrupted you while you were reading comments.
Oh no, it was just him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, for sure. I've even like again compartmentalizing your parents. Like it gets to the point where like when I really need advice, you just gotta maybe call your auntie. Which is fine.
Or your friend.
Yeah, or your friend, or set an appointment with a therapist. A lot. You know what I really want? I hope actually some young adults are listening to me and listening to me well. We're at the place where we're trying to better ourselves, and a lot of our parents did not get that opportunity. So we are surpassing them, people. So when you ask them for help or ask them for advice that they can't even formulate in their head because they never got to do it, stop being so sensitive when they give you shitty advice. You should have never asked them. They don't know. And I'm talking to me, I'm talking to friends because I've heard so many of my friends be like, my mom is always talking down on me. And what I hear is your mom cannot compute what you're trying to do. She doesn't get it. She never got the chance to do that. And that's not her fault. But and I'm not saying we're surpassing them in a bad way, but baby, this generation, we're on the up and up. So by the time you keep asking people, because what we're really asking for is for their permission. What we're really asking for is for them to accept us. Stop it. Stop, y'all.
Stop a cheerleader.
Bro, or a cheerleader, stop calling your parents when you're on a new venture, please. Please. Like I'm so sick of hearing adults cry about because all it is again projecting because a lot of us, again, remember, I'm 28. My mom already had me at this age. So the stuff I'm talking about, I might even rub her the wrong way. I mean, obviously not my mom, because my mom is perfect. But anybody's mom, you know what I'm saying? Right. Hi, mom. But anybody's judge, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, a lot of us are about to be 30 and we're childless. A lot of us are about to be 30 and on our second car. A lot of us are about to be 30 and can go to Bermuda 3 times this year. Our parents are jealous.
I think that's and
they can't do it. They can't do it.
And I think that's a good point because it is where most of the people that I know that I'm around, or most of the people that I know that are in our age group, our parents had us by this time. Like I'm about to turn 27 and my parents were married, had me by 21, my brother's 5 years. So then by 26, they were on their second child. And I'm like, I couldn't even imagine having a child right now. Like, what am I supposed to do with it?
Well, my body is like cringing as we're saying.
I'm like, that child would not go to school. It would not eat. I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm grateful.
They're gonna bring this clip back when you have your first baby and be like, double check, Jasmine baby.
But and I'm grateful. Like I had a moment the other day where like I had woke up in the middle of the night to go use the bathroom, and I was like, it's a mom out there wishing she could go back to bed with just her, and it was nobody in bed, no kids to crying or whatever. And I was like, I'm gonna be grateful in this moment that I have, because there's a whole bunch of like, especially I think in the church, maybe outside the church, but like, oh, what to do when you're single, or like being single is a bad thing. And I'm like, John, I'm building my brand. I'm happy I'm traveling. Like I'm enjoying my life. And I'm happy that I can go wake up at 3 a.m. and go use the bathroom and get back in my bed and don't have to worry about nobody. Like
yes.
I'm excited about that. So it's just it's an interesting thing, but I know there's a lot of people that, like I said, that are around me that our parents already had multiple kids by this age that we're in. And it is a thing where our parents don't get it. Now, with my parents, they were trying to, I think they heard, okay, well, Jasmine is doing community stuff, right? And I remember when I was doing initiative, my dad was like, are you getting paid for this? And I was like, I mean, like people are paying for tickets to come to the events, but most of the stuff is not. Now, I mean, I just posted on Sunday, they walked into like In-N-Out and they see somebody in my brand, right? That's been a 3-year difference, so it's like, it'll make sense, but I also never I didn't call them, like you said, I didn't call them and say like, hey, I have this idea, what do you think? I did ask other people, and I think that was even the wrong thing to do. I'm glad that I like didn't listen to them, but my parents got it once my fruit was produced.
Yeah.
So it's like now, like you can see, like, okay, like my mom on the phone with my mom today. Oh, you have your show today. Like, yeah, I'm doing things. Like, and you guys are seeing it even when you're not with me. You guys are seeing people
Yeah.
you don't know rocking my brand. So I think that's a very good point. Like, stop going to these people who worked at a job for 40 years, who didn't like go 40 years. You went to a place and you didn't like it.
I can't do 4 minutes. I start screaming.
But why would I go to you about trying to start a business?
Yeah, exactly. And remember, it's just trickling down. It's what they saw before. You know, Granny worked in a Coca-Cola factory. Like that's what she got. That's what she could do.
And it's not that they don't have something to offer you, right? It's that they don't have anything to offer you in that area of your life. And so that's what I also want. Like, we're not saying like, oh, well, this new life that we're trying to live, the older generation just doesn't get it. But I think this new wave of like entrepreneurship, because you have to see it before it becomes a thing. I had to see New Black History Makers as a concept before it became something that people were wearing. And that's not easy for people to grasp. And I'm like, I get it. So I'm not running to people saying, hey, what do y'all think about this? Like, now things just happen. But that's a really good point. Like, stop asking them
and tell them. Like I can't wait for the moment where like I'd be like, oh mom, today da 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 in Atlanta, and I da 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 da, and she'd be like, oh dope, I didn't even know you were doing that. Instead of, hey, I'm about to do this. And like, because even sometimes I think I'm like, again, like I really do enjoy my mom because she's getting to the point where she just lets me be like, I just bounce words off of her, and she'd be like, okay. You know what I'm saying? But again, I hear a lot of us young adults, and even that okay sometimes will bother me. I'm like, do you like it? Is it a good idea? And I'm like, no, like Daisia, it's fine. It's fine, you know? But like, again, please, if anybody heard anything I say, do not ask, tell them when it's done. And again, like you said, a lot of people, if your circle is not cohesive to what you're trying to produce, show them after. And it doesn't mean we don't mess with you as a friend or anything. It's you're compartmentalizing. There's friends I share my ideas with. There's friends I'm in business with. There's also some friends who I only go and get tacos with.
Only tacos, and that's it.
That's what I'm saying.
But I think that's good about the compartmentalizing thing too, because I've had to realize that as well. And then also I had to check myself because, like you said, the cheerleading thing, or you wanting approval or permission to do something. And I had to check myself, like, why are you going and checking with people before you send stuff in, right? Or why are you going and trying to get validation here, here, and here? And then when people don't give it to you, now you feel like now you're not happy about the thing anymore. You're sad because of their responses.
Curled in.
And I'm like, I had to redo that work, and it's getting to a point now where I'm like, okay, maybe I need to scale it back. But I did the work to the point where like I will keep quiet about things. I will not tell a soul. Like, and it wasn't like that. I used to have to like, oh my God, something is happening. Go tell somebody. Go tell like, and I probably over the past 5 years, I've had to work on that. And now it's like, oh, something is happening. I have my moment with it. I will take myself out, or I will do whatever I need to do around this brand when it comes out. Because even the All-American thing, I got the contract for that in November.
Yeah.
And I didn't told people, right? Like people that were like close to me, but majority of people didn't know about that. And I was like, yeah, that was something that happened back in November, but I've just learned to keep things, you know, and just like, okay, even my travels, like people didn't know I was leaving for that long until I got out there. But when I used to leave before, that was something that I would publicize, but I've just learned to compartmentalize who to tell, when to tell people. And everybody, you know, everybody doesn't have to know before it becomes a thing. I'm very big on how people speak about things when they're still in limbo. Or when they're still like being figured out.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's where even going back to the video as a whole, that goes back to somebody saying, well, when you were around, I didn't get to do that. And that's like, that's not my fault. You know, that's not my just, we have different prerogatives, it looks like.
You're saying like the parent saying?
So like, like imagine just again, like, unfortunately, like I was saying, some of us can have jealous parents, you know what I'm saying? Or so it's just, because you know how she brought up how parents can call you a burden, parents can call you this or that. Imagine a young adult publicizing the things they've been doing at this ripe age, and their parent just projecting onto them, well, dang, I didn't get to do that when I was young, or lucky you, little things, and then just be like, well, should I not share this with you? Because
Right.
I'm popping. Again, I'm not talking about my mom. I'm talking for the masses.
Right. Yeah. I completely forgot. I know I was about to talk about like us searching for other people, but I forgot where I was going with it. It'll come to me. But yeah, that piece is really interesting, and I think it stems from the parenting thing, like you said, like the compartmentalizing or just searching for that like thing, searching for that like approval from them and maybe not getting it, as a child and growing older and being like, maybe I can get it from my friends. And I realized too that people will not give you what you didn't get as a child. And I think sometimes
people
will not give you what you didn't get as a child. Like your friends, like they're not supposed to give you what you didn't get as a child. And I think oftentimes we like look at our friend. Your friends are not supposed to give you what you didn't get as a child.
Oh, boom. Okay. Dang. I don't know why I didn't click.
What did you think I said?
Girl, I heard every word you said. It just did not it wasn't giving.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, it does now.
Okay. Yeah. So like your friends are not supposed to give you what your parents didn't give you.
But what is lacking? What you're trying to feel?
Yeah. And I think sometimes we like qualify, oh, well, you're a bad friend because you didn't give me this. And it's like, no, you should have went to go get that from your parents or have the conversation or talk about it in therapy.
Oh my gosh, we can even talk about our moment. Because I feel like I messed up with that wholeheartedly. 2018, remember?
And the therapy thing? Okay.
Yeah, so like not even to give all my tea, but I actually brought Jasmine a group with me because we were allowed to bring our friends. Jasmine, if y'all don't know, is one of my best friends. Yeah. And I spoke about a moment that was really gut-wrenching for me. And I lost my mind simply because my best friend didn't give me a hug. But what I learned in that is because that's how I was also taught to shut up when I would lose my mind as a kid. Somebody sweep me up, hold me. Instead of, I'm talking about even as like a young adult, like even as a young adult, like Daisia's crying, like it's like physical touch. It's not really like talking like, okay, so what's wrong? What just upset you? You know what I'm saying? And I get it a little more now because like the people I'm venting to are so far away. They can't touch me, so they have to speak to me. You know what I'm saying? But I messed up with that wholeheartedly with our friendship, being like, I was in this moment of dire need. And the one person I brought here, hoping she would understand me enough, did not even pat me on my shoulder. But I've been used to that my whole life because what you did do was talk to me, sit me down, try to understand why I was feeling this way, where I was coming from. And then even the bigger picture about why I got so damn mad at you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So going back to that, us as young adults, a lot of us, and I can speak for myself, I failed for that in romantic relationships. Mm-hmm. A lot of my romantic relationships, I'm stemming from certain conversations I didn't get when I was younger, certain feelings I didn't get when I was younger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it happens. It happens to a lot of us.
Right. And that was an interesting thing too, because you have two familiar structures, right, working at the same time where my mom is a little more affectionate and my dad isn't, but I'm more like my dad. I look like my mother, but I'm more like my dad. Mm-hmm. And my dad is like, whatever. So even in my mind, sitting there, I'm like, this war in my head, like, okay, do I do that? But I'm like, okay, physical touch feels weird for me. So I know it's going to be awkward if I grab her. I don't know how to like fully embrace. And then we're in a space. So it was like, okay, whatever. Let me just like, okay, the moment is over. Okay.
And that's like the real feelings, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, understanding both sides, right? And then you being able to say like, okay, you understand where that came from. I understand my place in that. Cause somebody even told me the other day, they were like, oh, you don't like a friend. She was like, you don't like physical touch. And I'm like, what? She's like, you don't. And she was like, I've bumped you multiple times. And she was like, you'll like do this. And I'm like, I don't jump like that. And she's like, yes, you do. Like you are weird about it. And I've had to just like, I get it from my dad. And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. Cause if somebody comes and just like, I will hug. But if somebody's like on me, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this was not welcomed.
It's definitely giving church hug, but at least we're touching you.
Yeah. Like we can do we can
that. Be like And I'm like, no, come here.
Right. Because and it's, it's a thing, but I think it's important for us to realize where that comes from. And I feel like I'm in a space now of like, that stems from that. That stems from my mother. That stems from my father. And it helps me kind of like process things because I understand my parents because I've understood me more. And I've realized that from a younger person. Like I've seen some things that I've done, whether it be to my parents or away from my parents, and I've seen my parents do that. And I'm like, oh, you did that because of that, because that's why I do that. So it's really been an interesting thing. And me being the oldest too, me seeing a lot. My parents have been married for 27 years, but me seeing how they were different with me, with their only child, their only girl, their first child, and then 3 boys, right? And the transitions and everything with that. Like it's just a very interesting thing to be the oldest and to really grow with your parents. And because the baby, he gets a very more polished parent.
Rested, yeah, like
a more chill, like, okay, whatever. I'm like, I got the anxiety and the like, I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Remember, we'll catch it in the next segment because our minute's about to come up. But just like, I think being the oldest has given me so much anxiety. So much anxiety.
We will come back to that because yes, I just everything that I was raised around gave me anxiety.
Yes, but to all the parents watching, also, we love you, we respect you, we appreciate you. But if you're anywhere in this, do better.
Right, do better. All right, we'll be back.
Yay. I'm tired of talking. Hello.
We are back for the last 27 minutes. This is the New Black History Maker Show. I'm your host, Jasmine Gates. Thank y'all for tuning in. And I'm joined by Daisia Iman.
Hello again.
Yes. What were we talking about before we got off? I forgot. I
No,
gotta do better.
no. What did I say?
I have to do better. You were. I know you mentioned the parents, but you were like, okay, we don't hate y'all.
Oh yeah, no, that's really what I was saying. But what was I saying before that?
It was something else. It was, but yeah, you were like, you haven't. I don't know where my mind is. My memory
What
is.
was I saying before we got off break? We all forgot.
But yeah, I mean, it's a lot. Definitely a lot. But yeah, like Daisia was saying, this is not a bashing thing for parents. It's a shining a light. We
Yeah,
need to shine lights on things. And if y'all want to come on and talk about how children can be better, go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
But I think it's also interesting too. I like how you mentioned like to the people that are our age or the ones, the adult children, right? Like if you realize that your parent isn't able to give you something, like you're not a child that needs a bottle, you can go and search that somewhere else or seek that out somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that's been, like really cool to see as well. And I loved how you mentioned the love language. I think that needs to be a conversation as well with children. I mean, because before you get into the relationship, before you get into this dating world, there needs to be a conversation about how you give and exchange love.
Or even, I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
You're good. That's it.
Yeah, even one of my proudest moments this year was like stepping up and being like, "Hey, mom, I'm kind of going through a lot of self doubt. I don't know if you know, but my love language is words of affirmation. Do you mind telling me a list of a few things you like about me?" And she did it. And I literally can look at that list once a month and be like, you know what I'm saying? Like little things like my mom has never, like I've never gotten a card really and been like, I like how this, or you're doing great at this, or great job. You know what I'm saying? And I hear the words sometimes, but my mind, I'll be going and going and going like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like they were very few and in between. You know what I'm saying? So to have at least one text message where I can be like, I can keep going to it. It does happen to mean a lot. It goes a long way. You know what I'm saying? And I think also the unfortunate thing that a lot of our parents did was like, we can present ourselves as unhappy because they're not speaking our love language. And they'll say, but you have food, but you're clothed, you get to go to basketball, you get to do this, you just went to the dance.
Yeah.
First of all, did you ask me if I wanted to go to the dance?
You know, or if I wanted those shoes.
I'm going to the dance because all my friends are going to the dance. It's not like that has nothing to do with what and that was a bigger thing too. That has nothing to do with what I'm asking about. That has nothing to do with what the need I have right now. I remember literally telling my mom one day, and this is when I knew, like when I look back at it, depression was real. I would talk to my mom. I was like, yo, I'm always sad. And she's like, no, you're always tired. And I'm like, I literally did not say that. I did not say that. I said I'm always sad. And she, and in her head, how can you be sad? You dance for 8 hours a day. Well, that's why I'm sad. You're walking me like a machine. I'm 11. I'm 11 years old. I'm 11 years old having 16-hour days. That was my life, bro. You would have thought I was auditioning for fame every day in my head. And I'm doing it because I want to make my mom really proud. I want to make this woman really proud. But I am not tired. I'm sad because this actually isn't in my alignment. And I can't tell you that because then we're going to have to start over. And every time we start over, you get really mad. You get really mad. You got really mad when I didn't want to do and now I'm speaking hypothetically, but like you got really mad when I didn't want to do soccer. You know what I'm saying? You got really mad when I thought I wanted to play the violin, so I picked something else. Or you got really mad when I started ditching school because I'm learning this is not in my alignment. Yeah. And I'm getting a little emotional, but a lot of our parents did not listen to us. Because when we were young, we weren't able to say those exact words like, hey, this is not working for me, but I am uncomfortable.
Right.
You know what I mean? And again, it's how do you get to be uncomfortable when you're fed every day, you see your friends every day. Those are basic needs. Those are basic necessities. We got to get a little deeper. You know what I mean? We just got to get a little deeper. So again, any parent, if your kid tells you those words, ask why.
Right.
Because no one asked why. They just told you why not. Why it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah. And I think if you look at TV shows, that's a common way of writing or a common scene that they will recreate is the child doing ballet or doing dancing and then not wanting to do it anymore, and then them saying like, oh no, you always stop doing what you're doing, like you never just stick with anything. And it's like, well, I've only been alive for 10 years. I like, there's so much more to experience. If I don't want to do soccer,
I
like,
don't want to do it.
there's so much more, and I've never thought about that, but you see it in so many, those family TV shows that we watched growing up, where the kid was like, I don't want to do ballet anymore, and it's like, no, you're gonna do it because I already bought you soccer shoes and ballet shoes. Then you wanted to play the piano, and it's like, well, maybe I didn't feel like the piano. I was good at the piano, maybe I didn't feel like, I was this. Granted, I played basketball. That was a whole like mental situation. It was good because of the community and stuff, but then also like just your whole life trying to get to this, like you're automatically put to be this athlete that's supposed to get a college scholarship and go pro.
That's what I was gonna get to too. A lot of, especially Black parents, like they didn't let it be recreational. My uncles got to the point where they were like trying to train me, and I was like, I'm not Lisa Leslie. Like I don't. That's not my prerogative. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or it got to the point where, like, now that I'm dancing, I feel like people are making bets on me. Like I hear like people talking about like, well, she better like da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm just here to dance. Like, you know what I'm, and then it gets to the point where now you have to go to college for it, like you're saying, and it's like not even to keep people on hush, but again, to finish something so that the bigger picture is proud of you. But then it's like, okay, so now we're kind of like, I got stamped. I probably did it to myself too, but I got stamped as an entertainer so young. And I was like, yes, I'm good at this. Yes, I have fun with this. Like even doing this, I'm enjoying this hour and a half. But baby, I'm not a podcaster. I'm not doing that with my life. You know what I'm saying? I'm not consistent. Right. And I think that was the thing too. I think for me at a young age, I knew my work ethic. Like I would pay attention to even how I acted in school. Like a lot of people are like, is Daisia like different? I'm like, no, I don't like this. I don't like this. So I'm not, and I can't fake the funk. So then again, that's where going back to even that girl was talking about. That's where we become defiant. That's where we become disrespectful. That's where we become, because now it's becoming agitating getting us to these places. It's becoming friction to get us to do these things. And don't get me wrong, mine did not develop till I was like an adult, where I got finally hit myself upside the head and was like, oh baby, this should have stayed a hobby. I'm dancing and singing, and thank you everybody for listening to my music and all of those things. For me, should have been a gateway, a little escape. You know what I'm saying? I go to my room, I dance, I sing, but like business is where I'm growing. You know what I'm saying? Like what does Daisia want to do? It's touch money. It's make some money. It's change people's lives. And yes, you can do that through song and dance, but you have to know your work ethic. You know what I'm saying? And mine is very much so. Right? We're keeping it quaint, and we're keeping it in the computer. Where I'm gonna have my moments where I get to pop off and be that person, but it's to draw in the money. In the experience. I'm not doing that for free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, that's for sure. And it goes back to, because you mentioned earlier when you were talking about your stepdad, but like wanting to be talked to. So clearly I talk, right? Like I will talk, and I love conversations. And I wonder often, like, if we did sit down more, like with my parents, and have actual conversations, like granted, I have become what I've become or whatever. But to say like, okay, what more could have taken place if they did see like, oh, Jazz does like to speak, or Jazz does express herself. So let's talk to her a little more, or let's actually sit down and ask her about her thoughts on certain things. I was able to develop and maybe have certain conversations as it relates to like the Bible, because that was my life. I went to Christian school, and then we were in church every other day, it felt like. But like there's so much more. And then also me just being able to express like, this experience wasn't, good for me. Like I didn't really, like this or whatever. And then we can go and imagine something different. But I think parents should definitely talk to their kids more. And then that builds if I'm able to have a comfortable conversation with my parents at home, that gives me confidence to be able to speak to somebody else on the outside. Definitely. Or to be able to address somebody. If I know that in what's supposed to be my safest place, I can address things, the right way. That just gives them more of a confidence to be able to do it. So I'm like, there should be more practices that are happening in the home that contribute to like the real world, for sure.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, you see that now in a lot of our adult relationships. You'll feel it. Like I have some friends where I have to be like, oh no, you're irritated. Tell me why. So like if I have disrespected, like, if I have disrespected you, you're my friend. Let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Some people aren't as lucky as you and I. You know what I'm saying? We, like I said, we can go back for back. We can have that conversation. Right. But a lot of young adults, because again, when they brought up something at home that bothered them, it was a problem. So now when they're in their relationship, unfortunately, some women that creates domestic violence. Unfortunately, that's where some abuse can come on, or even just emotional traumas, because you're literally not saying, I don't like that. And yes, I love you wholeheartedly. Because some people think when they tell somebody they don't like that, they're going to lose the whole person. Yeah. And for someone who loved you from the beginning, that's not that at all. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of us as young adults, even at the workplace, like if I say something, I'm going to get fired. Or if you say something, you can get a promotion because you're actually ringing a bell and shining light on something. Yeah. You know what I mean? But a lot of it, we just don't know, because we've never been taught to like feel okay to say, hey, and then even if we do, sometimes it's coming off in an aggressive manner because you've had to fight. You've had to use your voice and fight in your household. Some people who have households full of 6 brothers and sisters, the middle child usually has to scream to be heard. You know what I'm saying? And then eventually that trickles into the relationship. But now every time there's issues, they're screaming to get their point across. And now they're dating a partner who's like, why are you yelling?
Right.
So it's like all just this. And like, again, going back to what the comment we got earlier is like, yes, these people were just trying to figure it out as they go. But my God.
Right. And it puts me in a place of like not feeling like, oh, I'm the bigger person in the relationship with my parents, right? But I can have a deeper level of understanding. Also because, and I know what you were talking about having anxiety because you're the oldest. That's what we were talking about before. So the anxiety because you're the oldest, but the me having to go and say like, okay, I know that I didn't get certain things from my parents, but I can speak to them about operating differently for my brothers.
Yeah.
So even like I don't know why I have not mentioned this on this show, or maybe I have, but we're doing the Minding Your Mental Health for Black boys. It's a conversation about mental health for Black boys, facilitated by Black male therapists. So if you guys are interested in it, DM me and we can get your boys. And we have 2 more sessions. But I have brothers that are the same age group as the age that we're serving.
Okay.
Now I've had to have conversations with my dad, like, okay, this is something that is good for them. Like they should come to it. And he's like, well, like it's just a regular thing, like something at the park. Like, oh, okay. And I'm like, no, they're talking about mental health with therapists. Like this is something that they have never had access to. That they're gaining access to, through this group or whatever. And me and my dad kind of having this conversation about how he maybe views the way that my brother that's right under me, how he operates in his emotions. And I'm like, well, maybe if we get this conversation started with them a little younger, that they wouldn't get to that point. Yeah. But having those conversations and then also not being that like bratty daughter and being like, well, you didn't do that with me, or you didn't talk to me about that, or I'm not going to try and make it available for my brothers because, it wasn't available for me. It's like, no, I think at some point in time, especially those of us that were the oldest, there's some responsibility towards the, younger siblings that we have to try and just be that third arm of support or fourth or however your familial, situation is. But just being that extra leg and being like, okay, I didn't get this, or this is how I navigated through that. So that you have like an easier time or whatever. But to your point, it does bring a lot of anxiety being the oldest because your parents are anxious. I think that's a thing. Your parents are anxious. So of course it comes back on you. Having your first child.
Yeah. Remember what I was talking about too is the emotional, like being how you were conceived, even like what was that environment like? You know what I'm saying?
Lord.
Like all types of things. Like if I could go deep into that, Jasmine, like anyways. But going back to being the oldest is really anxious. I think for my part though, and I think this goes for a lot of us too, some of it was self-inflicted. I can also own that because I looked up to my mother and my aunt. My mom and my aunts were like my first Destiny's Child. Those are my Spice Girls. You know what I'm saying? And so like for me, I like even usually when I have a lot of my breakdowns, I just want to be like Auntie Mitzi so bad. Like, and I want to do it today. You know what I'm saying? So that's why a lot of my banter is always, did I make them proud? But like now it has to just, you have to fold back in. It's like, am I making me proud? You know what I'm saying? A lot of my oldest, like being me, was self-inflicted anxiety at the same time, because I look up to these women so much. So yes, it can be a back and forth. Yes, they can put anxieties on us, or even seeing how other siblings will be treated will make us think about ourselves a little differently.
Yeah.
But also, if you're lucky enough to have parents you want to be like, that's heavy too.
Yeah.
That's, bro, I want to be like my mom so bad. You know what I mean? I do. I love that lady. I do. And even some of the parts I don't get to be like, it's only because I'm just going to be a little bit better. But I'm never going behind her. I'm never going backwards. You know what I'm saying? She's my foundation for me. My aunt is my foundation for me. My uncles are my foundation. One of my uncles is my foundation for me. I'm sorry, y'all. You know what I'm saying? But it'd be like that. It'd be like that.
Right. Yeah.
But what that means is that, again, going back to compartmentalization, as the oldest, because I got to keep this going too. Who in this group do I just get to hold on to a little bit? You can't hold on to everybody.
Yeah. And you're saying you can't hold on to everybody in terms of the adults. Or
yeah, in terms of the adults, like, because again, remember when I heard that girl's video, I started thinking about all the adults in my life, and it's just like, some of them they mean well even in their poor moments. You know what I'm saying? Some of them they weren't able, like, I know for a fact I got some adults, like you hear how I talk to people, like it can be a little you know what I'm saying, but it's because my whole life I got, hey you, da 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 da, and it's like, that's love, but that's just kind of how it's coming. That's kind of how it's coming. It's a little sharp, you know. So but I held on to those moments because I understood their heart. I knew where they were coming from. You know?
Right. And I think mine is more so with, I think, like I said, with my grandparents, that being the thing where it's just like, okay, it is what it is. You know, what can be done. I think my cousins and I'll say, for my dad's side, because that's the churchy side, we've had conversations, which I think is so beautiful, about how we grew up the same. We saw each other all the time, and we basically grew up exactly the same, but it's affected us. But we've talked about the negative ways that it's affected us, and what we're doing now to, like, I don't have kids, but I know one of my older female cousins, well, my only older female cousin, she has kids, and what she's doing and how she's prioritizing their mental health. Even to the point of not necessarily having them around family all the time, you know. So it's been like, granted, I know people hear that and they're like, that's not beautiful, but it's beautiful to me that she's caring enough about her children and willing to put them first beyond what we were taught to do, just in caring and loving for a family. I'm like, I can appreciate, you know, that part, because what's been done is already done, and we kind of have to, you know, pay attention to what's forward, or let go of some of those adults, or just see them, you know, in pieces or whatever. And some people get offended with that. Like, you don't want to come around. And it's like, I'm tired of coming. We've been coming around for a long time, and y'all need to be healed. And I'm like, I'm not comfortable around y'all mess no more.
And sometimes I need to be healed too. Like, I'm at the place sometimes where I just don't want to have that conversation. If I have to explain myself one more time, and even though I should be who I'm supposed to be and be able to talk to everybody, I'm going to lose my shit. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I can't do it anymore. Like, I think that's the thing too. Even like with my pronouns and stuff, it's like, look, I said it. And if you're messing up in speech, that's different. But if you are denying the honest fact of what it is, you're not invited. Like, I think about it like this. If you can't respect the realm of my pronouns, or disrespect me as a whole, you're not invited to my wedding, you're not invited to my funeral, and you're not coming to Thanksgiving. If you can't come to those three things, what are we talking for? So now we're at a surface level of experience. You know what I'm saying? And that goes with all types of self-respect. You know what I mean? So you have to do that with your family sometimes. So shout out to that woman who is saying, I'm not bringing my son over here because y'all can only seem to grasp a few parts of this. You know what I'm saying?
That's good. And I think, the self-respect thing is big too, because it's like you said, I may need healing too, and I may not be able to put the boundary up or keep telling you that this is bothering me, or that this makes me feel uncomfortable. And I think sometimes, like, I've told people, I had to correct myself, and I'll say, like, oh, you know, I will allow myself to be a brat about things. And I think sometimes we've used the word brat in place of, like, a confrontation. And I'm like, sometimes we need to be confrontational about things and let you know, like, no, you offended me or you hurt me. And it's like, that's okay. But a lot of people just are not comfortable with it. And I'm like, I had to correct myself. Like, no, you're not being a brat. You're addressing a concern. And nobody in this family wanted to do that before.
Yes.
So it's like, no, it's just confrontation, and a lot of times, because we're not all the same, we're not monolithic at all. You're going to have more confrontations than you are going to have. If people are really talking about their feelings, there's going to be a lot of more confrontation than there are you coming together. But through the confrontations, you'll be able to learn people and better treat them. But there's so many people. If you was going to a job for 40 years, that means you probably were also sitting amongst family your whole life that you didn't like, or family that hurt you, or did like crazy things to other people. And you sat around and your whole life was just a bunch of
complacent. Yes, complacent. Yeah.
And it's like, I don't have that in me. I don't know where they put those things at when they were making this generation, but they didn't put it in. Like, I don't have that in me. I'm not doing it. And I love where I come from. I love it. But we gotta heal.
Yeah, I find myself actually a lot getting very frustrated for them. You know what I mean? Kind of hearing stories from my grandparents and being like, "Oh, you were stopped. Like you had a dream and somebody said, you thought," you know what I mean? And you literally just thought. You kept your thought. Or, or like a lot of my family, again, is from the South. So migrating to California, like getting overwhelmed and maybe backing out in like a year. They pat me on the back for going to New York and sticking it out for 3 and then going to LA and then going to Atlanta. And I'm like, I'm doing the bare minimum. It's called working. It's called traveling. I'm so sorry I don't get to do that. And I'm not talking down on any adult who is of that generation of having to do what you got to do to get where you want to be. But baby, I'm going to bring them together. I'm not going to do just anything to get where I want to be. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I don't know. We're just a little different in that realm.
Enjoying life. I think that's a thing, right? I think people say that they're enjoying life, but it's like, well, when you go to sleep at night, what is your mental state? Like when you're with yourself, what are you happy with what you're doing? Even if it may not be on top of the hill, even if it may not be the most successful thing, but are you happy where you are? Are you content? Are you at peace? At peace.
Yeah. And that's why I think, again, going back to being your parents' punching bag, because they have to live with themselves after we go to bed at 8:00 and have those thoughts and be like, am I? And sometimes it's a no. And then to see us kind of, I want everyone also, reddit.com/regretful parents. When I tell you, baby, I'm talking about, the last one I saw, and I'm so sorry if this is a trigger warning or anything, a man had to go physically harm himself so he did not go harm his baby. And he got to keep that for 18 years. So I pray to God. I wonder what kind of punching bag experience that is going to be. If you have those thoughts, parents, please seek help.
Yeah.
If you have those moments as a new parent, as a young adult, even those thoughts of like, or telling your kid, I want to wring your neck. Red flag, go see somebody.
Yeah.
Because even though I'm rambunctious, even though I'm hyper, even though a lot of it as a young kid is anxious too. And I don't have the words to tell you that. You should not harm me. A lot of my life, I was literally kind of living in fear and just got a lot of like, you so scary, you so this, you so that. Ask me why.
Right. That's real.
And you go see somebody, because if all you view me is as that, then you're not seeing me as a human. You're not seeing me as the kids are like Donkey says, like Shrek says, onions, we have layers, baby. I'm not just the drooling, the sad, the expensive, the nagging person. I'm growing. I'm developing. Yeah. Ask me why. Ask these kids why, people. Ask them why.
Oh, for sure. And it just opens my mind. And we have like 2 minutes left, but it's opening my mind to the fact that, like, I think you just need to go to therapy if you're going to be a parent.
Oh, God.
Like, just period. Regardless, because there's people like, even, not to go like super dark, but when you talk about suicide, right? There's people that feel like the suicidal conversation needs to happen only when you are on the road.
Moment before. Yep.
But there's so many people who have the ideations way before. There's so many people who think about it way before, but just never went about doing it. And that's a problem too, that you don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Like the problem isn't once, and we're having the funeral. The problem is when you're having the thought.
The problem was the first time when I said I'm sad and I got told I was tired.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because now, and we all know this brain. We've been there. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, the problem, honestly, Jasmine, best one. The problem stemmed was when I said, "Mom, why am I always sad?" And I got told, "No, you're just tired."
Yeah.
Now, because again, my therapist has mentioned people who want to commit suicide usually are doing it because they're tired, because they've been crying for so long, and because now they just want to feel something. Does that make sense? We've been pushed under the rug, or maybe our siren wasn't as clear. Because I'm like, to be suicidal also means if you're crying for help, unfortunately, you have to have that uncomfortable conversation. And a lot of us get scared because usually when you say, "Hey, I feel like killing myself," you're taken to the ward. The police are called on you. You're called crazy, and it's like, can we just ask?
Right, like, what's going on? And yeah, we need to ask questions. But I mean, it's just crazy. You talked about the conception thing. How was I conceived? That affects it. Then if you're not happy with what you're doing and you're not choosing to put yourself first before I came here, you're gonna have a problem seeing me and telling me to put myself first. So then I'm 11 months old and you looking at me like you don't want me to be here. And I can't even give a response to that.
Mm-hmm. But I feel that. But the child is going to always feel that, and that's why there's kids who really have to wonder: does my mom like me?
Child, a mess. I mean, this needs to be a part two. Your friend, is it Kadani?
Kadani,
yeah. He said felt this. He's in the chat.
Yeah, that's my son. That's my dog.
Hey, thank you for watching. But yeah, I'm gonna let this go off. But this is definitely, we have to come back and, I mean, if you want to, I know you're not a podcaster, but
no, I'll always come back for you. Always come back for you. But I meant that could be in your chair.
Oh yeah. So, but no, this was a good conversation, and then we got into like a lot deeper at the end. So
I want you should actually send this to the people who posted that video and see if you can get a response to the response. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got to look at the video to see. I didn't, because I wanted to watch the event. I was like, it gave a little weird. I was like, why was the girl there? I'm gonna keep my thoughts about the actual video to myself. But yeah, this was a good conversation. I think we need to start having those conversations about how parenting has affected us. And then also, because you and I are solution oriented, I believe, or I know that, and are always moving the needle forward in our lives. Yeah. So that's something where it's like, none of our conversations are like, oh, poor us, poor whatever. Like, we get up and go get whatever. If it's healing, if it's a bag, if it's a job, like, we gonna go get it. So, just definitely being in a place of like, if your parents did not do right by you, right? Like, and I think the right perception to have is that you're going to need to heal from anything. It's not about right or wrong. It's just, you're going to need to heal. Like, there were unhealed people that probably raised you. Therapy is something that's becoming popular now, and people are talking about therapy, but not really going to therapy. So that's a whole nother conversation. But
if I have 2 seconds though, I also just want to say, I apologize because I know therapy is a luxury. I know it's not accessible for everybody. So when we say go get therapy, I know it's not easy for everybody. So we don't want to come off classes as opportunists. Like, we have an opportunity that you don't have, but there is someone you can talk to, guys. Just don't give up on that search.
Right. And there's resources too, if need be. But this was good. Thank you for coming on.
I love you so much.
I love you too. Well, this is it. Do you want to say any last words or give your Instagram or something?
My last words are: love yourself, be true to yourself, and if anybody got a problem, F word, because you just got to keep moving forward. You got to keep moving forward. Life is too short, guys. Like, stop crying. And if you do cry, Beyonce says, I give myself 1 day and then I don't feel it again. I keep moving forward. So no more dwelling. All of us. I'm talking from every age group in the world. Life is already hard. Don't make it harder on yourself. Okay, right. People.
Well, yeah. So that's that. But yeah, this was a really good episode. I hope. Please send it out to people and let them know what's happening here.
Oh, baby, the message I'm about to send in the email to all my family, I'm talking about you.
Okay. But all right, y'all. Next Friday, back again, Luda, 3:30.
Love you.
Love you too. Okay. All right.
Without the power of God behind everything I do, I really am completely inadequate.
I'm helping the culture. These guys are part of us as well. You know, these are guys of our cousin. I'm helping the culture. I'm pushing the culture forward in another way.
Hey, black child, be what you can be, learn what you must learn, do what you can do, and to